I did a lot more complaining in my youth, 'cause I didn't know better. That's the truth. Anyway, just joking around. Whatever the case, guys, hurt people hurt people. You know, sometimes you'll have people who are walking around, they don't really have a lot of time, on their hands to focus on other things, I guess. I don't know. But sometimes you will find people who have too much idle time. When you have too much idle time, or maybe you have too much time to be in your thoughts, you overthink. It's like oversteering in trucking. You oversteer, when you back up, you hit something. You got to be focused on where you're going, your direction. It's really important that we try to really watch our thoughts. Music is a good distraction. I remember in my freshman seminar class, my teacher asked us, what would we do without music? Where would we be without music? Man, please. I think I would be lost in the sauce. Because even if there's no music that I have to listen to, I can sing to myself, and sound better in the shower, right? Whatever the case, I'm acting silly. Whatever the case, it's important that we look at the fact that sometimes when we're not in our A game, when things are not going right in your life, sometimes you focus on others. And sometimes focusing on others, you begin to judge them. And while you're judging them, who's judging you? We can all get distracted at times. But don't let your distraction have you focus so much on someone else that you start lying on other people. It was a while ago with this guy. I don't know what what I was even thinking. I ended up talking to him. And man, oh man, he just, how they say, started bugging out. Started, I don't even know. I know that he was out of his element. Maybe he was just going through something at the time. I politely backed up, moved away, Sometimes when people are going through something, there's nothing you can do but move away and pray for them, Because you don't know what God is taking that person through. They could be going through a test, and they could have failed it. And you know how you feel when you fail a test, You don't feel exactly the best, because sometimes it causes you to really rethink things. It causes you to question your own abilities, I took a test recently, and I didn't do as well as I know I could have. But I was reviewing the material, but somehow the names kind of crossed. And I didn't do as well as I know I could have if I had more time. But I passed it. But in life, sometimes we don't want to just pass a test. We want to do tremendously well, You want to jump over that hurdle, and you want to be able to do it senselessly. Like, don't even have to worry about anything. That was light stuff. But the challenges that we go through in life, the challenges that God takes us through, makes us stronger. It's like Maya Angelou said, I wouldn't take nothing from my journey now. I can't take anything from my journey because it already happened, one. And two, what did I learn from it? What did I gain from it? This guy told these lies so that, that this woman won all this money, that she had all this money. But every time people looked at her, they said, man, she seems to be living moderately. Oh, that's just a trick. You can fake something for so long, right? It's like people fronting and acting like they have so much money. If a person tells you that they have a job for you, right, and you accept the job, without seeing the money, or at least knowing that money is there for certain, some people might call you a fool, you know. I'm not one to name names, point fingers, because, I mean, I don't like being judged myself, you know. But it's almost like a person telling you, okay, I have this job for you, and I'm going to give you this much up front, and I'm going to put this here. You know, what was the name of that cartoon? There was a movie that my niece had me watching consistently. Sing. Beautiful movie. I love it. And in the movie, the guy promises so much money, but that wasn't the amount he actually promised. It printed out wrong. But once it was out there, he couldn't take it back. So he had this trunk, and in the trunk, it was supposed to have so much money in it. There was no money in that trunk. But here's the thing. He had faith that things would work out until he lost faith. But he lost faith because that was a challenge that he had to conquer, you know? Things are not always going to seem as though, you know, they are what they are sometimes. I was backing up the other day, right? And while I was backing up, I had to get out of the truck to see what was in the back, because I knew that if I backed in up much further, I might hit something, you know. It was a test. I passed it. I pulled up to the right and then went back, and that worked out for me, you know, and that was good, you know. Sometimes we do, you know, we have to do to make things right. And making things right to me was making sure that I got out and looked. It doesn't hurt anybody to get out and look. A lot of people driving around and they think they can make it, and then they end up busting a hubcap, you know, and hurting somebody because the hubcap might hit someone else when it flies off. Sometimes we have to see things before they happen, meaning we have to estimate better, you know. But God doesn't have to estimate. He knows what's going to happen. So it's up to you to think twice, because thinking twice is twice as nice, right? It's important that we look at these things, you know. I have an instructor. I have to give him a shout out. Shout out to my instructor, James. This guy, man, is so interesting. Some of the views that he has, you know, sometimes a person will give you their perspective of something, and you listen, you say, oh shoot, I never saw things that way. That is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to be who we are, because you can learn so much from other people by observing them, by hearing what they have to say, by interacting with them, you know. Sometimes, I don't know, in this society recently, I see more people copying off of other people and not wanting to be who they are. You are powerful in your own skin, you know. The problem is when we don't see our greatness, you know. I have to shout out to my godmother, Leora. I made her my godmother. I mean, she is my, you know, we didn't, when I was a child, didn't set that up. But I'm telling you, this woman, I learned so much from her. And she always puts love in her food. She thinks about what she's going to do. Her actions are impeccable. Sometimes you don't see what others see. That's the thing. So when you start copying other people, you don't realize that you copying someone else doesn't necessarily make you so great. I'm going to be honest with you. When I was teaching in the Bronx, I learned so much from my high school teacher. Let me see. Her name was Mrs. McNeil when I had her. Miss McNeil. When my sister had her, must be 11 years later. She had was it 11? Maybe it was 11 years later, yeah. Her name was Mrs. Reed. This teacher, man, she was hilarious. She had us laughing from the minute we had her class. Nobody wanted to leave her class because she was naturally funny. That was the great thing about it, man. She was a comedian. Man, she would have won so much money just standing up with comedy, I'm telling you. The disciplinarian was Mrs. White. She was my Spanish teacher. Man, you think you're going to get over? You better not try her. She would set you straight, man. You know, and she always had warnings for you because she was married to a doctor, a dentist, whatever. She was married to a man, and she'd learn things at home and bring them to school. Like that morning, she would give you a little talk, and she'd say, now be careful with this, be conscious of that. These two teachers, man, stood out among all of them. Now, Mr. Mack, he was cool too. He was the disciplinarian in school, but he was cool too because he set you straight, but, you know, he was cool with it. You know, he'd give you your options, and you had to choose. And sometimes you didn't get any options because you did too much. And my principal was a retired military person. I think she was a sergeant. She'd wear a suit, and she would, when I tell you, she would outrun the football player, okay? This lady had it going on. And with all these different representatives, all these different people I looked up to. Because, you know, some people, you know, I couldn't wait to get out of school just like other students in the high school. But I have to say, these people stood out because they always, when I say they always had something knowledgeable, if you wanted to take it in. Because sometimes, you know, as kids, you don't really take things in. You just, I just can't wait to just get out of here. But while you're getting out, you may as well take the lesson while you're on the journey, right? I really enjoyed the people who I felt were very supportive in high school. You know, middle school was Miss Birnbaum. She was actually a child psychologist, I think, in the school. But she would like play games or what have you, and you know, I never got a chance to really go into her office unless I saw some of my friends coming out, and then I'd speak to her, or maybe she'd speak to my brother or what have you, because she was a balanced person. She would, even though she had her own group of people that she worked with, she would still go outside of that circle and, you know, interact with different children in the building. What she was doing is she was looking to see who might need her. Although they might not have given her a reference to one student, or another student might be having a problem at home and go into her office, she still chose certain students just based upon body language and observation. I was in middle school, but I knew that much. There were certain things that stood out, just like certain things stand out to you and people. You don't just dismiss a person because you never know who that person might be in your life. That person might just be there to teach you a lesson. And when I backtrack on hurt people hurting people, it's more so because something that happened in their childhood might have been missed. They might have had some scorning or some pain or some agony which did not get cleared up. Miss Birnbaum in middle school was one of those people who would actually help the students out. Now, I don't want to start judging, but I will say, in the New Jersey school system, I have to say that it seemed like they were pretty balanced when they were, you know, checking certain students out in that reference. And in Yonkers, in middle school where I went, you know, Hawthorne Middle School, I have to say that was definitely one thing that Mrs. Birnbaum did well. Now, I don't know about the other, you know, psychiatrists or whoever in the school, child therapist. She was definitely a good counselor, because even when some of the students who came in who had problems, sometimes their friends would hold their hand to support them. I thought that was a good thing. She always made sure that she made everyone around her feel important. And that's a big deal, you know? Some of these students or children today don't have what we once had. Or if they do, sometimes they might not even realize it. That's why we have to be more conscious of our surroundings, more conscious of the people who surround us, because sometimes you might be able to get a blessing just by knowing who the other person is, you know? Excuse me. I have to say my godfather and my godmother were blessings to me, because there were times where I don't know if I'd made it, you know, through, because the way how they stepped out and tried to help and be there for me. Sometimes my pop would say, you know, your mama and I were worried about you. You all right? I had two pops in that capacity. The pop I called my godfather in New Jersey, Teaneck, New Jersey, and then my pop that I called pop in Brooklyn, you know, Carlton Jenkins. Excuse me. Again, God will place people in your life to support you even when you don't even know it. God's hand is on you even when you don't realize it, protecting you, guiding you, and directing you. These experiences that we have are here for a reason. They're here to strengthen us, to make us better people. And so that when we see another person going down that same road, we are there to interject in their lives. We're there to help, to put things, you know, God might be using you as an angel, you know. As they say, you know, you never know who you might be entertaining. And you treat a person badly, and then you no longer have them. Then you say, wow, man, if I could have one more day. Well, sometimes those people are buried away. You can't have that time back. Or maybe that person left, and they said, you know what, they're done. Wash their hands. Because you did too much. You know, you should have said less, you know. It's important that we realize that we are all blessed in one way or another, because God is blessing us tremendously. Although sometimes it's hard for us to see when we are in the dark. That's why it's important for us to get outside and enjoy some of that fresh air, right? So, that was my word. I just want us to really, why don't we do this? Why don't we do Appreciation Week this week? And really focus on some of the things we can be appreciative of. And thank God for all those things. Because there's about 1 million, and there's too many to count, right? There's more than 1 million, you know. So, either way, let's make sure that we are appreciating the things, the wonderful things that God is blessing us with. Have a great day.